Hmm. You know what? The world-changing ideas actually come in washroom. I'll tell you why. I built the entire presentation while I was in washroom. I'll show you. I built it on the iPhone notes, literally in the washroom. So basically, the goal is. Oh, I guess we are live. Welcome, guys. Welcome to this live session. Actually, you know what? What actually triggered me this idea that we should have a session on automation? The thing is, guys, I have worked with so many clients, and you know what? Every time I work with a client, these days they want everything to be very fluidic and everything to be easy. Do you understand the meaning of easy? Like if you go back in time, 10 years back, the things which were not automated, like the banking sector, today it's completely automated, right? Like I have two bank accounts currently, and I have not visited the bank branch for the past, I think, 5 years. Probably I only visited it once when I opened my account, and after that, no, never. That's the kind of automation the world is moving. And if you want to have great automation ideas, please spend time in washroom. All right, I'm kidding. So guys, let's start. It will be an exciting journey for all of us to understand why automation. Now guys, let me talk to you about the first instance when I encountered, like, okay, we need to automate. All right, probably this was my first job, and my manager was talking about, hey, you know what, we need to kind of like build a procedure to solve one problem. And I was like, all right. I mean, I just said yes. And you know what, I didn't knew the language. I didn't know like what has to be done. I literally didn't know what logic I have to use, and I just said yes. And what happened? Technically, I got the automation and I took longer to build it. But that day I realized one thing. If you want to do something new, or if you want to build something extraordinary or out of the world, you commit first and then find the solution. You literally cannot, have the solutions built for all the problems in the world. That's the key. From there on, what I used to do is I used to work with some of the smartest people in the company and try to work with them in order to automate stuff. And it became like my habit of identifying the problem, and then I was able to build a equation as to how automation works. I know, and this is something, it does take time, but probably let us first look at what is the simplest automation that we always see in real world. All right, so probably you might go to a cafe, or you might have been to a cafe, right, or a grocery store. And always, guys, trust me, I mean, till date, whenever I see a gate that opens automatically, right, these automatic opening doors fascinate me. Like, imagine the logic behind it. Like, how does it work? Because it's a real automation, right? We always see it. We see it in the malls, we see it in the grocery store. What do you think might be the logic behind this one? The logic is very simple. Whenever someone is approaching the gate, it needs to open, right? Simple, fair enough. It looks very simple because now it is automated. Imagine back in the day, the engineer who was working on this automation for the first time, how much brain power or what kind of logic he had to build, or what kind of like ideas he might have pulled up in order to actually build something like this. Now, let us keep it simple. So let's say if we have to build a logic for something like this, what logic we'll use? We'll simply use this logic. Any human being within 3 feet, open the door. Simple logic, right? Now, in this case, imagine no one would actually bring elephant to the mall, right? Or a dinosaur. So any human who's approaching the gate must automatically open up, right? That's the simplest logic. Of course, it can become more complex, like if there is an object which is not moving, probably don't open the door. Or we can go even further. Let's take if the door is closing and someone again approaches near the door. I mean, it should not completely close, but it should open back again. Now logics are simple logic, complex logics, but we'll go with simple logic. Any human being within 3 feet of the door approaching near the door must open. That's the logic. Now see guys, you built an amazing logic, right? And you take this logic into the market and you talk to engineers. Hey, I want to build something like this. Any human within 3 feet, I want to open the doors. What the engineer will tell you is I mean, this is possible with microcontrollers or building some microprocessors. And one engineer will tell you like, all right, we'll build it for you. We use microprocessor technology and it will cost you less money and we'll deliver it within probably 1 month. All right. So this is the build process of the logic. You have a logic, now you want to build it. All right. Now let's take you reach to another person or another company and they say that, hey, you know what, we can build robots and these robots will actually open the door whenever a person is coming. Technically, we can deliver this automation within probably next 5 years and it will cost you $1 million. Having a logic is not the solution. The thing is, how do you build that logic to solve the real world problem depends on the resources, depends on the technology, and depends on the things that you want to use in order to achieve the goal, right? So in this case, we had one simple logic. The logic is to open the door, right? Now there are two ways to build it. Either we use cheap or probably less expensive microcontroller technology, which will take less time to build, or we use a very hefty technology like we build robots and those robots will open the door. Choice is yours depending on the amount of money you have. You can go with either option. That's incredible. Looks like our friend is still not happy. So let us look at a completely different example from the real world, right? Of course, we have already seen an example from the real world. Let us get into the Linux or probably the stuff that we deal in, that's our technology or our area. We have Mr. Bull. Mr. Bull is always angry. Mr. Bull is always angry because he is not happy with his teammates. So in his environment, the servers are always getting full, and every time the disks are getting 100% full, there is no control because every team member is manually logging into the server and they are checking the disk space, and by the time they check, it's too late and it is directly impacting the business revenue. Now Mr. Bull approaches us and he asks us, hey, can you build an automation for us to solve this problem, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to build a logic. We build a simple logic saying like, hey, Mr. Bull, we can do one thing. Why don't we send an email whenever the disk is 90% full? Very simple, very basic logic. We can even go and build complex logic, but for the matter of fact, for this session, we'll stick to simple logics. So when the disk space is 90% full, trigger an email. Simple, straightforward. We have the logic. The question is, how do we build it, right? Now in this case, Mr. Bull is having two kinds of servers. So they are having Windows server and they are having Linux servers. Logic is same, but we have to build this logic for two different servers. So the same logic will be built by a Windows team for the Windows server. The logic is exactly same. Whenever Windows server disks are 90% full, send an email. And also, a Linux team will actually build the logic for the Linux servers using the shell scripts, right? Logic remains same, but because of the environment, the development changes, right? And probably if they are having Mac, they will have to build another program or the logic for Mac, right? Simple, fair enough. So guys, what is automation? Automation at its core is putting things on autopilot. And you can do this by actually deep diving into how the things work, right? So what is autopilot? I mean, if you guys have boarded a plane, actually during the entire flight, no pilot actually flies the plane until unless it's a fighter plane. But a normal passenger carrying plane, what happens is during the takeoff and landing, only that part is when the pilot is controlling. Apart from that, the plane is literally on autopilot. The plane knows at what height, what angle, what speed, which direction it has to go, right? So putting things on autopilot is automation in literal sense. Of course, many people will have their own definitions, but we coin our own definition, which is simple to understand. If you can put any work, any task on autopilot that it happens automatically, that's automation, right? Now guys, as we have seen, like automation has two main parts. The first part is logic, the second part is build, right? So you define logic. So for automatic door, we define a simple logic like whenever there is a human within 3 feet, open the door. And for Mr. Bull, he had the disk problem. And so what we did is we send an email whenever the disk is 90% full, right? Don't worry guys, I mean, the bull and full is actually rhyming. Sorry, it just popped up in my mind. All right. So guys, logics are different, but you choose the technology as to how you want to build. For the first part, the automatic door, we choose microcontrollers because it's inexpensive and technically it takes less time to build the automatic door. With this space, we assume that in one environment all the servers are Linux servers. So to build that logic, you need to use Linux shell scripts. Simple, fair enough, straightforward, right? This is automation, guys. You build a logic. Okay, that's confusing. You develop a logic and then you build that logic. All right. Now, the biggest question that we have in front of us, what is great automation? Guys, many people think that great automation is all about the build or the technology that you use to build an automation, but that's wrong. Technically, a great automation is all about a great logic. If you can write a great logic, trust me, it impacts a lot. A great logic, a normal logic, a good logic, and a great logic, all these three have completely different meaning, literally. And that's the reason why you have versions in the softwares, because with every version, the logic is changing, so they are building based on the new logic, right? Every technology, every smartphone, every system, every day it's evolving. And how is it evolving? They are improvising on the logics. They are writing great logics to build the future stuff today. Yes, that's automation. So guys, why not see the automation in real world? Actually, we employ a lot of automation in-house, and we have automated almost most of the stuff inside the DBA Genesis, right? So one of the key automations that I want you all to see right now is, like, earlier we used to build servers for our customer on our DigitalOcean cloud, And each server build, remember this, what I'm saying, each single server build earlier used to take 45 minutes. All right, 45 minutes to build one single server. Imagine if we get 10 orders to build 10 new servers. All right, entire team has to sit in order to deliver the order. So what we did is we followed the exact same philosophy of building a logic to look at the problem in depth, and then kind of like build the scripts in order to automate the entire process. I won't talk much. I would want you all to actually see the automation right now.
Hey guys, this is a demo video which I have recorded separately, and over here what I'm going to do is I'll actually use our automation to build a server on the DigitalOcean cloud, and simultaneously I'll be recording how much time does it take to build the server. Let us start the stopwatch, and this is the DigitalOcean account. I'll go to this option and start creating a droplet. Basically in DigitalOcean, any virtual machine that you create, they call it as droplets. So we'll quickly configure the server, and this will be test.dbhgenesis.com, and I'll give it a tag as Arun I'm creating, and create droplet. This creates a server for us. Trust me guys, this is the only waiting period that we have in the entire automation. Otherwise, our automation is quick. We just need to wait until the server is created. And let us see how much time. Okay, not even a minute. So earlier guys, this exact same thing that you're seeing right now, it used to take 45 minutes to build one server and give it to a customer. And now you will see the magic as to how much time does it take to build a new server and give it to a customer. Trust me, this is the only waiting that we have to do. Otherwise, everything is just super fast. Come on, DigitalOcean, give us the server. Let me refresh the page if it helps us. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Great, it's done. Let me refresh this once again. So guys, now I'll take this IP address of the server and let me log into the server. I'll log in as the root user, and it will ask to add the fingerprints. Yes, we want to add the fingerprint. And are you guys ready to see the magic? This is where the automation has changed the game for us. We just run one script under temp location. We have built these scripts and we are right now building single server, right? And as I hit enter, see what happens. Done. Our server is 100% ready to be given to a customer. So super fast. And let us go back to stopwatch and see 3 minutes 11 seconds to build a server. From 45 minutes to build a server to 3 minutes 11 seconds right now. That's the leap we had with this automation. Think about it, how much benefit it adds to us as a team, where we are saving so much time every single day when we build server.
I think you all loved it. And guys, imagine how much benefit we have internally like it's benefit for both, it's benefit for us as a business and it's benefit for the customer. Imagine earlier, if a customer orders a server, we make them wait for a couple of hours, or probably sometimes if we are getting a server request while we are logging out from the office, what happens? It gets delayed and it moves on to the next day. Now with this automation, simple automation, what we are able to do is we are able to deliver servers faster. And the beauty is, you know what, when people are logging out and if we get a server request, still people are able to log in and get it done, because how much it takes? 3 minutes, 3 minutes to build the server. So automation always benefits everyone. It benefits the business, which is actually embracing the automation or moving in the direction of the automation. And it does help clients, right? You as a business owner, you want to help your clients so that they are able to perform things faster. And I mean, that's a goal of every business, by the way. Moving on, guys, let us deep dive. I want to remove the skin out of the automation that we just saw, and I want to walk you through the entire process, how actually we were able to build the automation, right? So, guys, we had one simple goal, one simple statement in front of us. How do we automate the post server build process? This was our one single goal, and we had to find a way to solve this problem. Now, the best part is, like, we know to automate anything, we need to build the logic, and then you actually build it with the technology, you implement it, right? So the first thing is we need to develop a logic. But now, how do we do it? There is a process, guys, we follow. For example, for our problem, how to automate post server build process, we actually wrote down all these steps that we go through. Technically, there were more steps, but for the presentation purpose, we have only 15 steps on the screen, and these are the key ones. All right. We used to follow all these steps once the server was built, log into the server, execute each step one by one, which used to take its own sweet time, then test the server build before we give it to the customer. Now, if you look at all this carefully, it is all scattered, like you have format disk, partition, 8 GB swap, open the port number, and create Oracle user, create directories, and so on. It's all scattered. When we look at all these steps carefully, what we did is we were actually able to identify that we can put all these steps into three different buckets. What we did is we created a bucket for the disk related work, we created a bucket for the network related work, and we created a bucket for the test related work, right? So this way we were able to categorize the tasks or the steps that we need to follow based on whether it is disk related, whether it is network related, or it is regarding the testing. It made our life simple, right? So now our logic was very simple. We will first automate the disk level stuff, then we will automate the network level stuff, and then we will actually automate how are we going to test the server build, whether it is completed or whether it is fine or not, right? But there was some problem in this one. While our logic said we will complete the disk level tasks, the problem was if we have to mount the NFS, we had to make sure the network was fine. Now this dependency made us, or actually forced us to make some changes to our logic. What we did is we switched the gears, and now we came up with a new logic. We will actually automate the network level stuff first. Second, we will automate the disk level stuff. And third, we will automate the testing, whether the build is fine or not. Great. Till here, everything was smooth. But then We even spend time to look at every single step and force us to kind of eliminate. Guys, one of the literal meaning of simplify is eliminate. Remove the things that are not required. So what we started doing is we actually looked at every single step and we were trying to remove these steps, the one that do not make any sense. So we started with the network list. Now suddenly we identified the pre-install package. What if we allow customer to install the package? I'm talking about Oracle related pre-install packages, right? That's incredible. Customer will have a different feeling. So rather than we install it, we let customer install. And then we quickly identified create Oracle user. We used to create the Oracle user in-house, and now the customer will create it. So we can eliminate this step, right? So what we came up with is under the network bucket, we can actually eliminate two steps. We will not be doing the pre-install package, and we will not be creating the Oracle user. And guys, this happens only when you ask some hard questions. Okay, why and what if? Why do we do this? And what if we don't do it? Right? When you ask these kind of questions at every single step, you come up with a situation that there are few steps that you don't have to do actually, right? The same situation we are in. Next, we move to the disk. Under the disk bucket, we were able to identify a very big problem. All right. So if you see, we earlier used to create a server with a very small hard disk space. And then we had to attach a new hard disk, format the disk, create partition, mount it on the U01, right? Trust me, guys, it was literally taking our heavy time. So then we made a change. What if initially if we build the server with big hard disk? So we were able to eliminate those top three steps. So we don't have to format the disk, we don't have to create any partition, we don't have to mount the disk on U01. Amazing simplification, right? And then at the end, we identified that we used to create directories for the customer, like Oracle installation, Oracle home, and those kind of directories. Now we push it onto the customer saying like, all right, customer will create the directories. We won't do it, right? Later on, we moved to the test bucket and we iterated the process again. Why do we do it? And what if we don't do it? So we identified one good thing. You know what? After performing all these steps, there was no requirement to reboot the server, and we were wasting time over there to reboot the server, wait for the server to come up, and then test the build and give it to the customer. Imagine this, guys. Trust me, simplification is one of the most complex thing in the world. I love this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes. And if you want to be great at simplification, I must tell you this. You have to ask some serious questions or very hard questions that define why do you do it and what if you don't do it. That actually gives you a different perspective. Most of the times the problem is people say you have to do something because that's the way it is. Not really. You can change the world, right? Let's come back to our list. We had 15 steps. We divided all the steps into different buckets. We created the buckets and we arranged the buckets based on the dependency. For example, we cannot mount the NFS until network setup is done. We cannot test until everything is set up, right? So every bucket is dependent on the previous bucket. Later, we ask very hard questions as to why we do it and what if we don't do it. And we came up with this current list of very important, and what is left over is the most important or the critical steps that you have to do in order to build the server. The beauty about this simplification process is it actually leaves you with only the required steps. the most important steps that are required. Now, it was simple for us. All right. So under the network, we had to perform five things. Under the disk, we had to perform two things, or technically we have to automate only those two steps. And under the test, we had only one step, probably eight steps. So from 15 steps, we brought it down to eight steps. And guys, there were more steps. I mean, for the simplification process, we have chosen only these steps, right? That's incredible, guys. What exactly is the meaning of simplification? It is removing the non-essential. Something that is not required, you remove it. Something that is not relevant, you remove it. The beauty is it leaves you with those fine steps, the fine action steps that you need to take in order to complete a task from start to the end, right? That's it? No. It's not about just simplification. There is more to automation and building logics, right? To develop a great logic, you need more. So step one, what we saw is how do we simplify the work? Now, what is the step two? Guys, in real world, if you see, there are some dependencies. Okay, so if you have to perform something, or if there is an action step, there are always some dependencies. For example, if there is a fulfillment center, or if there is a customer order, right? Now you have to send the package. So before you send the package, the dependency is you must see the order email, right? So in real world, we call these small details or dependencies as properties. Now, every step that you are left over with, it will have some property. For example, in our case, if we want to update the etc host file, there are some dependencies and there are some properties that we need to look at. We need to get the IP address, we need to get the host name, and we need to update the file. Without those properties, without solving the problems of these properties, you cannot actually execute the step. Every small thing in the world, every small action that you do, it has some dependencies. And to be great at automation, you must first simplify and then identify the properties for each required step, because after simplification you're left over only with the required step. Now we deep dive, scan through each step and look at the dependencies, right? If we are able to figure out the dependencies well, your logic comes great. At the end, we came up with a logic. The logic was we will first automate the network setup part, then we will automate the disk setup part, and then we will test and display success, right? So the script has to test the server build automatically and display that it's successful. Perfect, simple enough. That's our logic for server automation, which we have used. Now, the question is, what exactly is logic? Guys, to build or to develop a great logic to solve any problem, you know this, I have mentioned this earlier also. Great automation equals to great logic. So if the logic is great, the automation will be awesome. How do you write great logic? If you want to write great logics, you need to simplify, and then you need to define property of all the required steps in a way that you are able to gather or answer all the problems uh, regarding a particular step. That's about logic. You simplify and you define properties. But in plain language, a logic is a solution in a very simple language, right? So when I say that you have to build a logic for the doors to open automatically, you don't start learning microprocessor programming. Okay, that's not the goal. Or if you have to build the post server automation or script automation, you don't right away go ahead and start writing the Linux script. So writing scripts or defining or choosing the microprocessor to open the gates automatically. This part is the build part, and before the build comes the logic. Logic is actually simple English statements to solve a problem, right? So even before you build a problem or build a solution for the problem, you actually write the logic. And trust me, guys, this is one thing the developers don't tell you. The thing is, developers need to spend time to build something, so they have to again spend time to write the logic. So imagine if you can build the logic in simple, plain language, whatever your language is. Let's take simple solution to the disk problem in English language and you give it to someone to build. You're actually solving the 50% problem for the developer, right? What's the logic? It's the solution to a problem in plain language that anyone can understand. You write it. So this is a solution you build on paper, right? This is the planning part. Wow, that's great. So great logics actually come from a rigorous process of simplification, defining properties, because now you're left over with only the steps that you are supposed to do. We are back to our equation, guys. What exactly is automation? Automation is all about logic and then building that logic, right? So by now, we know the 50% of the equation, right? We know how to write the logics. So what is a logic? Logic, in simple terms, it's a solution to a problem in plain language, right? Why do you think it matters to know about logic? See, guys, I mean, most of you might have dealt with developers. Okay, let me share you my story and then probably we'll come back. So guys, when I was starting DBA Genesis long back, the biggest problem I had was like I used to contact developers and I used to tell them this: hey, I want a website where I can sell online courses and put my content out there so that people can benefit. You won't believe this. I spent a lot of money. I have dealt with 5 bad developers, literally, and they never built the solution for me. And at that point of time, because of frustration, what I did is I took a break from my formal job and I actually learned how to build a website. And then I built the entire website myself. And today, if I keep this equation in front of me and if I look back, so the problem with developers is, guys, if you just give them an idea, right? They have to spend time in building the logic, right? So the most of the time to build any automation goes in writing the logic, planning the logic, putting things one before the other, right? Simplifying the steps. There is a lot of iterations over there, right? And because of these iterations, the developers run away. I'm not saying all developers are bad, but what I'm saying is, out of my experience, I feel it that if you just ask someone to do or build an automation for you, they technically avoid it. The reason is, most of the time, the time consuming part is writing the logic. And now, because you know how to write a logic, it's so simple. You write it in plain English language, what would be the solution, what are the steps you want to follow, and give it to a developer, right? Now the developer will be happy and they will actually build the automation because 50% of the task is already done. You built a logic and now you're telling them, hey, just use, probably your logic says how to install Oracle automation. It's a plain English language and you give it to a developer. The developer will see it and he'll be like, okay, I'll develop the script out for the Linux server. That's the catch, right? So logic, I mean, if you can write great logics, trust me, it changes the world. Now the question is, What about build? All right, Arun. So you talked about the logic. We understand the logic, and everything is fine. But the question is, how do we build it? Let's take you have a great logic um, around a problem, and you built a logic for an automation, right? Now you need to actually develop it, right? So how do you do it? That's the 50% equation, right? 50% logic, we know how to build it. Now the question is, how do we implement it? So guys, on a formal session like this, learning build is not possible. To build something and to implement a logic into a real world language, it takes time. And for this, I would like to introduce you to Automation with Shell Script training. It's an online training that I'm going to conduct. And the beauty about this training is you will be working with me on 25 automations. These automations, we will be going through the exactly same process, right? We will be starting with what do you call building logics, and then we will simplify, we will define the properties, and then we build the shell scripts for these logics. Now let me tell you this, very important. Each one of you, when we work like this on these 25 automation, the beauty is everyone is unique, everyone is different, and I suspect that some people will have better logics than others. That's the beauty about working in a group. 25 automations, and these will be all real world automations. You will be building these automations along with me on Linux. The next thing is this training will be completely for 1 week, and you will be actually automating 5 real world problems along with me, right? And these 5 real world automations is something that will be coming straight to you from the client's desk. So basically, DB Genesis helps so many clients, right? Now we have clients who always send us requests for the automations. So what we are going to do is some of the automations we will allow you to work on those automations, build the logic, and actually write the scripts in order to solve those real clients' problem. 25 automations, 1 week, and 5 real projects. Guys, I would like you to invite onto this online training. It's my humble request. Building automations for the client is completely different. The beauty is if your work can change someone's working style, or if your automation can change the way your clients work, it is incredible skill, right? Many people underestimate this skill, but guys, the speed at which the world is moving towards automation, you're left with only two options. Step number one, stay same, don't do anything, wait for some developer to come and automate your work. That's step one. Step two is let us be part of the change. Why do you want to wait someone to come and automate your work? Why can't you automate your own stuff? Whatever you do on a daily basis, what if you can automate it? Right? We don't have to wait for someone to do it for us. We will do it ourselves. We want to be part of the change. We want to automate our own work. And we will be doing this by building automations for real world clients and also writing some great scripts. Now, there might be one objection or one question that might be going on in your mind, and that is like, Arun, what if I automate my own work and my employer fires me? See, guys, imagine you are the manager, okay, and you have a team of 10 members. Out of those 10 members, there is this one guy who wants to automate some stuff, right? All other 9 team members, they want to be like the way they are. They don't want to change with the time. and they are just sitting there and performing their task, right? That's great. They're doing their job, right, for which they are hired. But this one guy, very curious, he comes to you because now you're the manager and he says, "Hello, Mr. Manager. You know what? Rather than, we all work on this for so many hours, what if we automate and uh, the beauty is we save time for both for ourselves and for the customer." Do you think that manager, I mean, you are the manager, you would want to fire that kind of candidate? No, right? So, two options: stay the same and don't do anything. Second is be the part of the change and try to automate this stuff. That's the first objection that everyone has. What if, I automate my own stuff and my boss kind of like fires me? It will never happen. If you are the change driver, you are someone who builds automation and you are someone who can change the way people work, everybody would love you. Everybody would want you to be part of the team. That being said, guys, I invite you to this online training, Automation with Shell Script. Come join this training, be part of the change, and I will see you all in the training. Please visit our website, dbgenesis.com, for more information. Thank you.